roller coasters come and go, all with varying lengths of service life. For some states in the United States, their oldest operating coaster is a timeless classic, while some states, their oldest operating coaster is only a few years old, and some states simply have no operating coasters. A moment of silence for those states. In my previous episode of State of Stats, we took a look at the very first coaster to open in each state. For this episode, let's stay in the present and appreciate the elder coasters of the country. This is State of Stats, the oldest operating coaster in each state. Not going to waste much time with this intro. Drop a like on the video, subscribe if you haven't yet. We ain't got time for the YouTube algorithms nonsense. Not today, dude. Get a life, dude. Some coasters in this video may have opened at a different park than where they currently operate today. I count a coaster's service life beginning when it was first built. It seems RCDB resets that clock anytime a coaster is relocated. I'm not going to do that. We don't reset our age anytime that we move from one place to another, so neither can coasters. So some of the coasters on this list may not align with RCDB. Alabama, roller coaster at Athens Lions Club Kiddie Carnival. This opened in 1998. Not really the most exciting coaster to start off this list. This is a Williams Amusement Device Company kiddie coaster. Nothing much else to say about this coaster. Moving on. Alaska. Once again, Aftershock at the Alaska State Fair. This opened in 2021. This is the only coaster that Alaska has ever had. It's an Interpark Zyklon Galaxy model. Arizona. Desert Storm and Patriot at Castles and Coasters. Both opened in 1992. Desert Storm is a Hopkins looping coaster, one of very few left in operation. Patriot is also from Hopkins, but it's just a family coaster. I guess Castles and Coasters got some kind of 2-for-1 deal with these coasters. Arkansas. RCDB lists Arkansas Twister as the oldest coaster in Arkansas, opening in 1992. But Big Bad John is much older. Big Bad John is an Air Mine Train coaster. This started its service life at Six Flags St. Louis in 1971. It operated at this park as River King Mine Train. There were 2 tracks of this coaster. One track is still there to this day, and we'll see that coaster later in this video. The other track will be relocated to Dollywood in 1988 and would open as Thunder Express in 1989. This was located where Tennessee Tornado currently is today. It operated at Dollywood until 1998. This coaster would then go off to Magic Springs, opening in 2002, and is still operating here to this day. It's so odd seeing a coaster like this be relocated so many times, as most mine train coasters work with the terrain that they are in. Somehow this coaster works perfectly with the terrain at Magic Springs. If I didn't know any better, I never would have guessed that this was relocated, let alone twice. California. Giant Dipper at Santa Cruz Boardwalk opened in 1924. This is one of the most iconic classic coasters in the country, being named a historic landmark in 1987. Colorado. As of this video, the oldest operating coaster in Colorado is Wild Chipmunk at Lakeside Amusement Park. This opened in 1955. This is a Miler Wild Mouse. At that same park is Cyclone, a classic wooden coaster that opened in 1940. This has been standing but not operating, or SBNO, since 2022, after an injury occurred on the ride. The park has not given any updates as to when or if this coaster will reopen. If it does reopen, this will be the oldest operating coaster in Colorado. Connecticut. Lake Compounce makes it onto this series for a 3rd time, with Wildcat opening in 1927. Some could debate as this being the oldest coaster in the state, as it was completely rebuilt in 1985 and reopened in 1986. It can be argued that this is an entirely new coaster from the original, but seeing that they rebuilt the ride nearly identical to the original version, even using a majority of their original footers, I'm still going to claim Wildcat as the oldest operating coaster in Connecticut. If you don't want to, then have Little Dipper at Quasi Amusement Park. This opened in 1952. Take your pick. Florida. Space Mountain at Magic Kingdom. This opened in 1975. While it may be a Disney coaster, this honestly is a pretty thrilling ride. Being in the dark definitely adds to the experience, and the old school aero jankiness also adds to the intensity. During their Halloween event, they run the ride in complete darkness. This is by far the best way to experience this ride. Georgia. 2 coasters can claim the title for this state, as they both opened in the same year. The Larnaka Mine Train at Six Flags Over Georgia, and Cannonball at Lake Winnie, both opened in 1967. The Larnaka Mine Train was an era mine train that opened with the park in 1967. It's an older mine train, and it shows. Honestly, one of the worst ones I've ridden. Cannonball is an out-and-back wooden coaster. I haven't had a chance to ride this one yet. It looks like a solid classic wooden coaster. Idaho. Corkscrew at Silverwood. This originally opened at Knott's Berry Farm in 1975 as the first modern steel inverting coaster. This was relocated to Silverwood in 1990 and still going strong today. Illinois. Little Dipper at Six Flags Great America. This coaster originally opened at Kiddieland in 1950 and was sent to auction when that park closed in 2009. Six Flags bought the ride and moved it to Great America, reopening in 2010, giving the ride a renewal of life. Sure, this coaster doesn't really make sense at this park, but I won't complain if that means that a classic wooden coaster was saved. Good job, Six Flags. Indiana. There are two possibilities for this state, only because one of them I cannot confirm when it first originally opened. Both of these options are currently at Indiana Beach, the first one being Tiger, a Schwarzkopf Jetstar that originally opened in 1976 at Holiday Beach. This was relocated to Indiana Beach in 1984. The second possibility is Cyclone. This was a Zyklon Galaxy coaster that was in the Mexican Fair circuit before coming to Indiana Beach in 2022. I cannot find out when this coaster was first built or how long it was in the fair circuit before coming to Indiana Beach. Seeing that most of these models were built in the 1960s or 70s, it's possible that this is older than Tiger, but I have no way of knowing for sure, so take your pick. It's one of these two coasters. Iowa. Legend at Arnold's Park opened in 1930. This is a John Miller design. Legend did have a major refurbishment in 1987 to 1988, where it was mostly rebuilt and the trains were replaced with the current PTC trains. I'm not sure how much of the original structure was preserved, so if this disqualifies Legend as the oldest coaster for Iowa for you, then enjoy Little Coaster at the same park, opening in 1959. Kansas. Roller Coaster at Kittyland, opened sometime in the 1960s. Just like the state, nothing exciting here. Moving on. Sorry, Kansas. Kentucky. Thunder Run at Kentucky Kingdom opened in 1990. This is one of the last remaining Din coasters out there, and debatably one of the best ones. At least it's the smoothest one remaining. Louisiana. Jabel's Galaxy at Dixie Landing originally opened at Pontchartrain Beach in 1971, then was moved to Fun Fair Park in 1978, then moved once more to Dixie Landing in 2001. This is an SDC Galaxy model. Maine. Two coasters shared the title for Maine, both opening in 1998. Excalibur at Funtown Splashtown USA and Orient Express at Palace Playland. Excalibur is an okay CCI wooden coaster. Not bad, not amazing, just fine. Orient Express originally opened at Santa Cruz Beach Boardwalk in 1998 and was relocated to Palace Playland in 2000. That's a pretty long way for a tiny coaster to travel. Go off, I guess. Maryland. My home state is home to the oldest operating coaster in not only the Six Flags Corporation, but currently the oldest operating coaster in the country. Wild One at Six Flags America. This originally opened at Paragon Park in 1917. This coaster has a lot of history to it. I may make a separate video explaining the history of this coaster in greater detail. It was relocated to Wild World, now known as Six Flags America, in 1986. This coaster has gone through many redesigns and rebuilds, and has survived a few fires. It's honestly a miracle that this coaster is still standing and still running as good as it is. Don't sleep on this coaster. It's honestly one of my favorites at Six Flags America, which isn't saying much, but you get the point. Give respect where it's due. Massachusetts. Thunderbolt at Six Flags New England. This originally opened at the New York World's Fair in 1939. It would be relocated to Riverside Park, now known as Six Flags New England, in 1940, and would reopen in 1941. I remember this coaster really surprised me. It's nothing mind-blowing, but it was much more fun than I was expecting. Michigan. Little Dipper at Cedar Valley's Wild Frontier Park. This originally opened at Long Point Park in 1950. This would be relocated to Holland Speedway in 1990, and relocated one more time to its current home in 2017. Nothing too exciting about this coaster. It's just an Alan Herschel Little Dipper. Minnesota. Kiddie Coaster at Kittyland. Originally opened at another Kittyland in 1957, and was relocated to the current Kittyland in 2015. Sorry, Minnesota, I think you got the worst coaster on this list. Mississippi. All-American Coaster at Brookhaven Exchange Club Park, opened in 1971. This is a BA Shift kiddie coaster that operates for 1 week of the year at the Exchange Club Fair. Sorta hardly acceptable for this list, but it's operational, so I'll count it. Missouri. Remember Big Bad John from earlier in the video? This is its twin, River King Mine Train, opening at Six Flags St. Louis in 1971. As I said earlier, one track would be relocated multiple times, and one track would remain there to this day. Montana. The only operating coaster in Montana claims this title, Flathead Lake Alpine Coaster. This opened in 2023. This is also the newest coaster that we'll see in the video. Nebraska. This coaster I'm just taking a guess with, as it's not really known when this coaster was first built. Nebraska only has 3 operating coasters, one of them opening in 2024, one in 1999, and the other is unknown. By the looks of it, this coaster is definitely older than the other 2. Safari at Sarnos County Fairgrounds opened at the fair in 2012, but these BA Shift kiddie coasters go as far back as the 1940s. While there isn't much known about where this coaster was before here, I can still confidently say that this coaster is the oldest coaster in Nebraska. It's definitely older than 2024 and 1999. Nevada. Canyon Blaster at Adventure Dome opened in 1993. This is one of the most intense small-scale aero looping coasters that I've been on. For some reason, this coaster rips through its layout way faster than it should, but it's amazing. I had a blast on this coaster. Pun fully intended, obviously. New Hampshire. Yankee Cannonball at Canopy Lake Park opened in 1936. This is a classic PTC wooden coaster with an L-shaped layout. New Jersey, Runaway Mine Train at Six Flags Great Adventure opened with the park in 1974. This is a pretty non-traditional mine train layout. And that little airtime hill at the end, if you know, you know. New Mexico, El Bandido at Western Playland opened in 1974. This is a Pinfari Icon Galaxy model. This park was originally at a different location when it opened in 1960. The park was relocated in 2005 and reopened in its new location in 2006. El Bandido moved with the park in this process. So RCDB may say that this coaster opened in 2006, but it really opened in 1974. New York, one of the oldest coasters on this list. Jackrabbit at Seabreeze opened in 1920. This was a Don Miller coaster and was the first coaster to use the upstop wheel design. North Carolina, Carolina Gold Rusher at Carowinds opened with the park in 1973. It's a mid-level mine train in my opinion. Not the best, not the worst, it's just fun. North Dakota, Runaway Train at Super Slide Amusement Park opened in 2009, and it's the only coaster that this state has ever had. Ohio, a state with many world-class coasters and many classic coasters, their oldest operating coaster is Little Dipper at Memphis Kiddie Park. This opened in 1952. Another Alan Herschel Little Dipper haunts this video. Oklahoma, oh joy, another Alan Herschel Little Dipper, this one being Little Fireball at Kiddie Park. This opened in 1953. This coaster seems to be having an identity crisis. The front of the train says Little Fireball. The coaster also has a sign that says Roller Coaster, and another sign that says Little Dipper. So 3 credits in one? Just kidding. Don't be that desperate. Oregon, 2 possibilities for this state. The first being Ice Mountain Bobsled at Enchanted Forest. This opened in 1985. RCDB says that this opened in 1983, but this originally opened as a slide in 1983. It was converted into a coaster in 1985. This looks like a very bizarre coaster. It looks like a Chance Swiss Toboggan had a baby with an Alpine coaster. The second possibility is Roller Coaster at Captain Kidd Amusement Park. This is another BA Shift Little Dipper that opened at Zone for Fun in 2019. This must have come from somewhere else before, as BA Shift Little Dippers were not in production in 2019. I'm going to assume that this is likely the oldest coaster in Oregon, as BA Shift only made coasters up till the 1970s. While I can't confirm exactly when this coaster was first built, I'm just piecing the logic together, so that's my guess. Pennsylvania, Leap to Dips would be the winner here, not only for the state but for the entire world. But this coaster has been standing but not operating since 2024, and the future of this coaster seems uncertain. Lakemont Park never opened their rides in 2024, and no announcement has been made yet about 2025. As for now, it is only the oldest standing coaster in Pennsylvania. As of this video, the oldest operating coaster in Pennsylvania is Jackrabbit at Kennywood. This opened in 1920. Some could say that this was also the first coaster to use upstop wheels, opening the same year as Jackrabbit at Seabreeze. I guess they can both share that stat then. South Carolina, Swamp Fox at Family Kingdom Amusement Park opened in 1966. This is a PTC Figure 8 wooden coaster, and it's the best wooden coaster in the Carolinas. Is that saying much? Not really. South Dakota, Humpty Dumpty's Great Fall at Storybook Land opened in 2015. Nothing exciting here. It's a Zamperla family coaster. Tennessee, Blazing Fury at Dollywood opened in 1978. It's more of a dark ride, but it does have some gravity-dependent moments. So by definition, it is a coaster. Not sure how much longer this coaster will be around. Seeing the rebuild of Fire in the Hole at Silver Dollar City was a big success. I can see the same thing happening to Blazing Fury in the near future. Time will tell, I guess. Texas, Santa's Runaway Sleigh at Yesterland Farms. Of all places for Santa's sleigh to run away to, for some reason, it's in Texas. This opened at the park in 2009, but beforehand, it was owned by various traveling amusement ride companies. It's believed that this coaster was manufactured in 1951. This is a Mile Arcade coaster. Utah, Lagoon makes it onto this series 343. Roller Coaster at Lagoon opened in 1921. This double out and back wooden coaster is just pure simple fun. Lagoon has maintained this ride beautifully. I can see this coaster sticking around for many more decades to come. Vermont, Timber Ripper Mountain Coaster opened in 2010. This is just a typical alpine coaster, one of only 2 coasters operating in the state. Virginia, Woodstock Express at Kings Dominion originally opened at Lyons County Safari in 1974. Later that year, it would be relocated to Kings Dominion and opened with the park in 1975. This is a PTC family wooden coaster, similar to many others at Legacy Cedar Fair parks. Washington, Classic Coaster at the Washington State Fair opened in 1935. This originally opened as a side friction coaster, as the trains used for this coaster were originally from Scenic Railway at Oaks Amusement Park, which had closed in 1934. The coaster would be refurbished in 1950 to use trains from Giant Dipper at Happy Land Park, which closed in 1947. The coaster still uses these trains to this day. West Virginia, Big Dipper at Camden Park opened in 1958. One of the last remaining coasters from National Amusement Devices. The only other coaster remaining remaining from this company is at the same park, being Little Dipper. Wisconsin. Meteor at Little America originally opened at Kittytown in 1953 as Little Dipper. It would be relocated to Hillcrest Park in 1967, keeping the name Little Dipper. It would operate there until 2003. Then it would be relocated one more time to Little America, opening here in 2007. It would also be renamed to Meteor. This is a PTC Junior wooden coaster. Wyoming. I wish I could finish these videos in this series with a more exciting coaster. Wyoming continues to disappoint with the only coaster it's ever had. Cowboy Coaster at Snow King Mountain, opened in 2015. Perhaps I should mention these states with only one coaster at the beginning of the video to save time. I'll note that for the future. And there you have it, that's the oldest operating coaster in each state. I wasn't expecting to be flooded with a bunch of Little Dippers in this video, but here we are. What stats would you guys like to see next in this series? This series seems to be a favorite for you all, and I have a lot of fun making them too. So I definitely want to keep making more and more for this series. Alright guys, I've wrapped the video up here. Hope you enjoyed it, and I'll catch you in the next loop.